Thank you for
Morning,
joining us.
Pagos.
Good morning. Good morning,
Yes,
Paul and Marisa. How are you?
we're
Perfect.
good, thank you. We would love to talk about this really interesting phenomenon. So, Pagos, what's your take on millennials
Yes.
investing in several properties in general? Do you have caveats, if any?
Millennials tend to not to like property as much as baby boomers. Yeah, they tend to have rental. They prefer to rent a house than to buy a house. That's a new phenomenon for the millennials right now.
Ah,
That's surprising to me because we always were taught when we were younger, especially, try your best to buy. Even though in the beginning you can't buy yet, you rent, but then eventually you're renting while saving to go towards that goal. So why would young people now be more looking towards renting?
Yeah, that's what we are taught by our parents, the
Right.
the baby boomers,
Oh.
but not the millennials now because
Ah.
they are using what we call as shared economy. Like they don't have any car, but they can use car
Everything is shared.
anywhere with their
Office.
everything to share with their hand
yeah.
with the new application
Yeah,
right now.
you're right. All right, so Pagos, let's talk a little bit about
Yeah.
investing at a younger age. I wish I started investing at a younger
Mhm.
age. I wish I just started everything sooner because I would have more time. So why would it be wise for someone who's younger, perhaps a millennial or even Gen Zers who are already working, want to invest into property at a younger age?
Because property is a long-term investment, we need to start it as young as we can. Uh, the most the most reason we need to invest in property because buying property is not just buying a building, not just buying a brick and mortar,
Correct.
but we buy a location. Where the location there's no similar location in anywhere. God only create the earth one,
Right. There's only
so
so
we
much
need
space.
to have our own space. Yeah, exactly.
So, you're saying when considering buying property, there are things that we need to pay attention to. One is location. Is there
Yeah,
anything else?
yeah. Usually they say one is location, the second is location, and
Location,
third
third
is
is location.
location. Location,
That's the
location, and
three rules
location.
I used when I bought my home. That's why I live so far away. Because there's
Right,
this understanding that if you live farther away from the city, you can get more affordable property. But then
right.
eventually the city gets
Yeah,
bigger and more infrastructures are built around those
yeah,
new areas.
Right.
And then the property is worth more.
yeah,
That's how I managed to raise my
yeah.
property.
Wow. All
As long
right.
as you have transportation access, as
Yes.
long as you have good transportation access, then further location means you have better pricing and it has a more increase in value in the future.
Okay, so now we're trying to convince our youth, a lot of us have kids as well, that we want to convince them, hey, you need to
Mm.
invest at a younger age. But there's also this stigma that when you're young, you cannot afford property yet. So how does somebody who's young, who is interested to go down this route, how would they go in this direction? What do they need to do in regards, because a lot of them are probably earning a monthly income.
Yes, that's true.
Well, what you need to do first is to get your down payment ready. They usually need a house. Then when they see the need of the down payment, they get, oh no, it's too big. But
Yeah.
actually, it's easy to have your own property. First, you need to spare 30% of your income.
Okay,
30% of your income for installment, right?
right.
Right.
So now, if you're not paying any installment yet, you pay your installment to your saving account, the same amount, 30%. Let's say you have
30%.
5 million, let's say you have 5 million income, then you should spare 1.5 million to your saving account per month. Then you will have your down payment in, let's say, about 2 years lah ya. It
Okay.
means about 2 or 3 years you have your down payment to pay your down payment. Then you can pay the installment about 1.5 million per month. Then you have about house for about let's say 200 to 250 million
Okay.
house price.
That would make sense if you can be diligent about it and put that money away. But
Yeah.
is there a risk, by the way, I want to ask this since we're talking about down payments, is there a risk of just putting down the minimum down payment because then you have a much larger mortgage? Is that
Yeah.
risky for somebody who's young? Should you always try to get more before you make your purchase?
Of course, it is risky because when you have a small down payment means bigger mortgage, then what you need to pay attention is the rate,
The interest rate.
the credit rate,
Right.
the interest rate, whether it is fixed or flexible interest rate.
Okay.
I think you should choose the fixed interest rate because it would allow you to pay more more fixed installment than the flexible installment or the flexible interest rate.
Okay, a bit of advice from me, by the way. Always be aware because a lot of banks will give you, a financial institution will give you a fixed interest rate for about 5 years' time, somewhere around that time. So then in
Yeah.
about 5 years, you kind of forget you're making payment every month. You're used to it. Suddenly your monthly payments balloons up. And when mine went up about 20% of its normal. And I thought, wow, is there a mistake from the
Right.
bank? And then I checked, and with them, they said, no, you only had that fixed rate for 5 years.
Oh,
and now the interest rate is here. Like, uh-oh.
And did you just
Fixed for
I-
5 years is okay.
Yeah, it was quite good at the time. I just forgot about it.
Right.
That's quite
gonna
good.
change.
Now the bank only offer about 2 or 3 years fixed rate, then they have flexible after 2 years
What is that based on, by the way? Is it based on the economy?
based on the economy.
Right. Well, to be honest, I do not invest in properties at the moment. It's like I only have my home that I live in, and also my husband has an additional has one apartment, and I haven't been really interested in investing in more properties. What would you say, Pak Agus, to someone like me? I mean, if you would like to encourage me to invest more in properties, what are the benefits? What are the downsides? Convince me.
Okay, property has two benefit. One is the rental income, and second is the capital gain. You always get two income from property. With other investment, you only get one. Let's say you buy gold, then gold only give you capital gain.
Right.
If you invest in stock market, you get capital gain. If you invest in bonds or bank deposit, then you get only the interest,
Right.
no capital gain. But when you buy property, you get two income. You get cash flow from rental, and you get capital gain also.
Okay,
That's
so
that's the beauty of property.
Right.
now, yes, that's very appealing. But also, for example, having several properties that you don't live in, it means that you also, well, I imagine we also have to set aside a certain amount of money for maintenance, right? To maintain the place that we rent out. So how much money should we set aside to make sure that these properties that we rent out are always in good condition? Because I feel that's actually, that could be a financial burden.
It was, yeah, for
Right?
some time. But
Yeah. It doesn't matter as long as the property has increased in value or it is rented. You have rental income, then you cut from your rental income for the maintenance. But when you have empty house, empty apartment, then you should spend about maybe 5 to 10% of your income to make sure that the apartment, that the properties are always in good shape.
Okay.
All right. So again, Agos, I've been trying to get Marissa to move into a nice big house, trying to convince her. But how do you, let's say somebody is renting, because we are trying to focus on the youth and how they're able to invest, getting early investment. But let's say we have a young married couple, and they're now renting an apartment because they're trying to save up. Now, you did mention that 30%, try to put 30% away for savings, but what if you already have rent on top of that as well? How does someone manage their finances while they have to pay rent and save up for a new down payment for a new home as well?
That's true.
Well,
That's
it's tough.
true.
It's tough. When you are already rent an apartment, which it is costly, it is quite tough to spare about 30%. But you can put aside from your transportation allocation. When you are live in apartment in the middle of the city, it means that you don't need transportation expense as much as those who live in suburban.
Yeah.
So you need to allocate your transportation expense, put it on your down payment installment.
Right, that's actually a good idea, or maybe lower the entertainment expenses a little bit as well. But it can be tricky because I
That's
remember.
It can be tricky because it's like the young generation is notorious for spending a lot on lifestyle.
That's
right.
right. It's such a big thing.
And it's a balancing act, I guess, between sort of like maintaining the lifestyle that is approved on social media,
Yeah.
To this sort of thing that is actually way more important because it's for your future.
Right, I
Right?
agree. So is there now, if investing in property it's always been a sound investment from what I've heard, whether it's from baby boomers, our parents, or even just our peers. But the last 2 years has really changed. I got pretty lucky. My house went unmaintained for 2 years because I didn't have any renters. At the same time, I wasn't living in it. So it
Right.
did have a monthly cost, but I found it wasn't as big as I thought it would be. We did have to make some light renovations, but in the end, I was lucky enough to find a buyer. Is it still as sound of an investment as it used to be pre-pandemic to be buying properties in larger numbers and managing them and trying to rent them out these days?
Well, there's much difference before pandemic and after pandemic. The pandemic changed our view that property is not always making money every year, but we have pandemic told us that that we might lose our income from the pandemic. That's a new thing for property investment.
Right, but I assume property values are still going up, even though not as much as before, probably.
Yeah, value is still going up. On the rental that is going down.
Oh, rental that is going down.
Yeah, because less people are,
Yes.
Less people are willing to rent.
Is it possible, because you said that property prices will always go up, is that true? Or what sort of situation
not necessarily always true.
Right. What sort of situation or condition that will drive the price down?
Things that will drive the property price down is interest income, inflation, and also rental income. When there's no rental, means someone always want to sell the property.
Right.
And when they sell the property, what we call as butuh uang, they
Yes.
sold it in less value.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, so especially when there's more and more on the market, you can
Yeah.
have more competing prices in the
Yeah.
area
Yeah.
as well. But rest assured, people are still buying houses because I had plenty of prospective people still looking at my home, even though there was less buyers perhaps as overall. But people are still interested in buying homes, so that's a good sign. Anyway, Pak Agos, thank you so much for your time. We appreciate this little chat in regards to
Okay.
property investments. Take good care.
Bye.
a
Thank
great
you for
day.
Marissa.
Thank
Take care.
you.